So before we move on to our session of meditation, just to add on to, or in a pursuit of continuing along what we have discussed with regards to our meditation from last week, we started or we did a session on Asubha. Now, when it comes to Asubha, or even if we talk about in spirit of Asubha, if you talk about Marnanusati, it is mentioned, or when it comes to practicing a technique such as Marnanusati, it speaks about the four classes of beings, meaning those who are beloved, those who are known, those who are hostile, and those who are respected, right? Those who are respected. So these classes of being, it is said or it is advised, when we practice something as intimate of a practice such as Marnanusati or Asubha, to not ever start with the individuals that I've just mentioned. The reason is because in the course of Vipassana practice, something that is required in spirit, in mind, is the sense of a religious Sanvega, a religious sense of movement. Now, that is, they use the word religious here, but the Pali term is Sanvega, right? Sanvega, as a Pali term, not the Sinhala term, but the Pali term, Sanvega, does not arise when a beloved one is taken as an object or when a hostile person is taken as an object, right? This sense of movement of mind, Samvega, for it to arise in a way that is progressive and supportive of the Vipassana that we are trying to now cultivate and develop, the advice that is given to practitioners is to start with people who have died before, whether it was timely Kala Marana or Akala Marana. Right? These people should not be people who are personally well known to you, but this is basically to receive a sort of insight into the fact of however great these beings might have been, they too died. Hence, I will also have to go through the same. Do you understand? For the sake of comparison, to understand the difference even better, this approach is different to death becomes of us all, I will die myself. Now, it is different, right? It is different. The second, because there is no object of comparison, the second is taken as a weaker foundation because the Samvega here can switch to fear, or the Samvega may not arise at all, fear might arise. Do you understand? So the reason that we then would take an object, let's say the Buddha, right? The Buddha, being as great as the Buddha was, is, as we know, taking that object, we say, even Buddhas comes to pass, so what about me? Or so will I. Do you understand? The important aspect, which is then spoken of, which is a commonality between both Asubha Bhavana and Marananusati, is the fact that this Samvega has to arise. And this Samvega cannot be partial towards those who are beloved or people that are close to you in any way, nor can it have any nature of hostility, meaning any sort of a sense of happiness of another person's passing, right? A sense of happiness over another person passing, right? Now, one might ask, okay, that doesn't happen. What if you're thinking about a person like Hitler, right? A sense of happiness could arise. What if you're talking about a terrorist who was feared all over the world? A sense of happiness could arise, right? Hence, we have to make sure that the primary object of comparison is somewhat neutral. Do you understand? Right? In order to protect the mind from the arising of any sort of hostility, any sort of attachment leading to fear. Understood? Right? So, when we go over the Marananusati, the Asubha Bhavana has, if we are doing it on a corpse, it has 10 different categories by which the corpse is divided into, right? Which we have probably seen a lot of images about, which we have seen a lot of sort of meditation, resources on, right? But just to sort of bring it about, the subjects would be Uddumataka, which is a swollen corpse, Vinilaka, which is a discolored corpse, Vipubbaka, which is a festering corpse, Vichiddaka, which is a fissured corpse, Vikayika, which is a mangled corpse. Then we have Vikittaka, which is a dismembered corpse, Hatavitik Vikittaka, which is a cut and dismembered corpse, Lohitaka, which is a bleeding corpse, Pula Baka, a corpse festered with worms, and then a Attika, which is a skeleton, right? Now, the different corpses, one might imagine that we have to go through each and every one of these corpses, which can be done, right? Which can be done. It really depends on the teacher. It really depends on the approach that the teacher would believe that is good for you. But it can also be done separately, because each of these different corpses, the practice leads to a separate, a distinctively different effect over the hindrances, right? Which we will discuss later on. But for example, if we are to take the first, which is a swollen corpse, the swollen corpse meditation, or meditating on a swollen corpse, helps those who lust for the beauty of form. For example, the second type of meditation, which is on a discolored corpse, is for those who lust for the beauty of skin and complexion, right? So the essence of the Asubha Bhavana is, in accordance to what we know in the Pali as taught by the Buddha, is those who practice Asubha to get rid of Raga. Practice Asubha to get rid of Raga. And in that manner, Asubha and Marnanusati can mutually support one another in what we are trying to achieve within our practice, right? Whilst now, if Asubha and Marnanusati is done, right, it doesn't necessarily have to be done right after one, right? It can be done at different types, at different times or days or whatever it is. But if the practitioner is practicing both of these techniques support one another and form a sense of a stronger foundation to get rid of the raga, meaning to kama tanha, bhava tanha, vibhava tanha, in accordance with this cycle of rebirth and death, in order to then fuel further, deeper non-attachment or letting go rather. Do you understand? Right? This is where, just as I mentioned last week, this is where the protective meditations now truly support that foundation of mind for, of course, right attention, yon sumanskara, for a practitioner who is in Vipassana. Is that clear? Is that understood? Right? Is that understood? So when we sit down for meditation, just as we spoke about the Sanvega, the sense of the same Sanvega, if it is applied to Anapanasati or any other Vipassana practice, the Vipassana practice will boom. It is the difficult part becomes getting to know what the right Sanvega is. Do you understand? Right? Now, for example, we see a lot of things in the world, right? We see a lot of beauty. We might also be seeing a lot of suffering and pain. When we think about the world in such a manner and we see these sort of distinct experiences that you and I might be going through at the moment or other people going through, if the need to practice Vipassana is out of fear of being reborn, then this fear must be questioned. Do you understand? Right? This fear must be categorically questioned to make sure that this fear is not a dosa-rooted fear, rather it is a wholesome-rooted fear. That wholesome-rooted, I'm calling it fear, but that would be known as Sanvega. That is then the attitude, the mentality by which persons of insight sit to cultivate deeper insights. If we are doing it out of the fear of our next destination, tough luck, to be very honest with you, tough luck. Because why? That anxiety starts now pulling in. That is why people who often try to meditate, try to sort of, bring their minds to a sense of calm during their last days, fail to do so. Right? Because that Samvega is not arising in a pure fashion, in a way that it now supports the practice of Vidarshana. Chamari has mentioned inside Panya instead of Dvesha, right? Panya instead of Dvesha. Now, that's thank you, Chamari. However, this is, although it is inspired by Panya, this Samvega essentially isn't Panya. It is, Panya is of course there, but we can't refer to it as Panya because it is not just Panya, right? Here, Panya instead of Dvesha, Samvega instead of Dvesha. This sense of movement would come from a sense of insight, which is prajna. But if we are to pick holes and sort of divide it apart, there are more attributes within this Samvega. There is a sense of calm, tranquility, sati, awareness, all which goes. This is a position of mind, not just one chitta chetasika. Right? So just relying on the panya would not be effective. Panya is a bipartition of Samvega, but not its entirety. That is where the bleak sense of, okay, I'm doing this because of the Buddha's path, all of that is fine. However, does that truly inspire you? Right? Are we doing it just for the fact of it being the Buddha's practice, or is that something that truly inspires you? The prajna and the inspiration together would be a better way of sort of bringing out the mean and feel of what Samvega is, right? Of what Samvega is. Yeah. So if we just rely on the panya, I would say that Samvega would just be a little bit more weaker than what it could be. This is not to say, no, it's wrong. It's not wrong. There is a piece of panya in there, but there is also a piece of tranquility. There's also a piece of calm, sati, because it is not just one chetasika. It is a collection of minds within that umbrella of a three-rooted consciousness. Yeah. So understanding that sense, that fear that one has, the inspiration or whatever it is that is now pushing you to meditate, goes far in supporting your meditation itself. Yeah, that is why then as soon as you sit, and when you get that right attitude, right there, the Samvega, as soon as you sit, as soon as you close your eyes, you will feel it. Right? You will feel it. Right? Often for us, I'm sorry, I'm taking a little bit of time. Often for us, I mean, being in meditation centers, we often struggle. Everyone struggles with this at first, right? Everyone struggles with it. Everyone struggles in understanding what Samvega is and understanding the feel, not in a philosophical sense, but really in a meditative sense. That sense of Samvega is something that you have to sort of learn in terms of how to come into a balance where now the Samvega is maintained whilst not impinging upon, okay, do I have it? Do I have it? That is not required, right? And before you have or find what Sanvega is, we would go into meditation maybe in a militant manner because it is right, because it is healthy, because of all of these different things that you have. Maybe you're trying to cope with some sort of sadness, or maybe you can't sleep properly. But all of those things are very valid things to start meditating. However, it will not fuel Samvega, right? It will not fuel Samvega. Samvega will be fueled, as the Buddha says, through some sort of understanding over the dangers of samsara. That is what then profoundly goes into the deeper understanding of impermanence, suffering, and non-self. Right? Is that clear? Right? Does anyone have any questions? I think there might be questions, but maybe you would also like to ask at the end of the session. Right? All right. So is there anyone who doesn't speak Sinhala here? If there is anyone who only understands English, you can just raise your hand up on the emoji, so that I know. Okay, I think everyone understands Sinhala. Okay. Okay, funny that I am asking that question. All right. So let's get down to our meditation. Practice letting go of everything that's coming into the moment, finding, adjusting yourself, finding a comfortable seat for yourself to be seated gently, coming into the present, taking a deep breath in, guiding your attention to the breath, letting go, letting go, letting go. As you gently, gently arrive fully into the present, arrive fully into the present, putting aside any responsibilities or duties, anything that you have to get done, just putting all of that aside and simply, simply guiding your attention to this very moment here and now. Observe, observe, observe. Observe gently, gently, guiding your attention to the breath, being with the breath, being with the breath for a moment. Coming into a state of samadhi, one-pointedness, as you put everything else aside and the entirety of your focus falls upon the breath. As you observe without control, without wishing that it be anything different from what it is, simply observe, 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 observe. Observe, observe. gently guiding your attention to the whole body, from the breath to the body. Observe the elements found within this body. Starting with the earth element, putting aside everything else, focus to observe the earth element within this body. Observe, observe. Swiftly but gently, guiding your attention from the earth to the fire element, to observe the fire element all across this body. From the fire element, guiding your attention to the water element, putting aside everything else and just observe the water element, the water element. The water element. from the water element to the air element. Gently bring your mind to observe the whole body, the nature of the elements working together in every moment, in every moment. As you now guide your attention to observe the 32 parts of the body, all made up of the different elements: earth, fire, water, and air, arising and passing away in constant flow. Guiding your attention Kesa, 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 Loma, Loma, Naka, 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 Danta, 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 Tachu, 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 Kesa, Loma, Naka, Danta, 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 Tachu, Mansang, Naharu, Atti, Atti Minjang, Wakhang, 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 Mansang, Naharu, Atti, Atti Minjang, Wakhang. mansang naharu atti atti minjang vakham hadayang yakanam kilomakam yakam pappasam 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 antang antagunam udariyang karisang mattagunam 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 hithang semhang humbo lohitang Sedu, Medu, Vittang, Semhang, Kumbo, Lohitang, Sedu, Medu, Hithang, Semhang, Kumbo, Lohitang, Sedu, Medu, Hithang, Semhang, Kumbo, Lohitang, Sedu, Medu, Hithang, Semhang, Kumbo, Lohitang, Sedu, Medu, Asu, Vasam, Kelu, Singhanikham, Lasikham, Mutham, Asu, Vasam, Kelu, Singhanikham, Lasikham, Mutham, Asu, Vasam, Kelu, Singhanikham, Lasikham, Mutham, Asu, Vasam, Kelu, Singhanikham, Lasikham, Mutham. Continuing to observe the 32 parts of the body, connecting to its true nature. All within this body, wrapped around its skin, which is also putrid in nature, impermanent, prone to illness and disease, and at the demise of the body, at death, grows to become more putrid with every hour. Decay takes over the whole body. Throughout samsara, just as a pigeon or any other bird may litter wherever it stands, from birth to birth, we have left behind so many bodies in our past. Even beings like the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas too, whilst being endowed with the great characteristics of a man, yet prone to illness, prone to disease, muddled by impurity, death follows us all. And just as it was in the past, in the future, it will be again. Death befalls us all, and the body continues in its process of rot and decay. Nimakaya ilikulai 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 Asarai, 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 Anityai, 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 Dukkhai, 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 Anatmai, 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 Anatmai. Gently guiding your attention from the body, from the 32 parts, to now the sensations of the body, and from head to toe, above the navel and below the navel, all around and across. Observe the sensations in its constant flow of change, without any form of attachment or clinging, accepting fully the present, putting everything else aside, and observe the sensation from those that are pleasurable, those that are not so pleasurable, to the sensations that are neither pleasurable nor painful. Observe without attachment from head to toe, in silence. Observe the impermanence, the attachment to which causes suffering, and the implicit nature of non-self, found within every moment of being, every sensation that arises. Observe. Observe. Whatever sensations that arise, observe, be aware, observe. Observe, observe, minding the posture. And any time that the mind wanders, take a deep breath in, gather yourself, and continue to observe the sensations. Gently guiding your attention now from the sensations of the whole body to the chest, the movements of the chest as you observe the sensations arising and passing away to the body breathing. Imagine, imagine these vibrations, these powerful vibrations of the still mind, filling your heart with compassion towards all beings, big or small, known and unknown, just as you would appreciate love, care, compassion in your life. Let us give to the world without bias what we would wish upon ourselves and our most dear. May all beings be well and happy. May all beings be well and happy. May all beings be well and happy. Just as the Buddha would get up early in the morning and sit in meditation, radiating metta towards all beings far and near. Regardless of color, caste, creed, he radiated loving kindness in all directions early in the morning. Just so, inspired, let us vibrate, share our most wholesome vibration, instilled with all the power that we could muster. May all beings near and far be well and happy. Be well and happy. Be well and happy. May those who suffer from illness, all the power that I could share with them, may they be well and happy. May their bodies heal. May they be well and happy. All those beings suffering the turmoil of anger, lust, delusion in their mind. May they all be at ease. May they find comfort in the wholesome. May they all be well and happy. May they be well and happy. May they be well and happy. Just as we are sharing all these good and powerful vibrations with all the people of the world in this course of life, just as you are, just as I am. May I have the strength to let go of my harmful vices. May I have the strength to overcome the unwholesome mind. And cultivate wholesomeness in my life. To do things in mind and body that will come about with love, care, and compassion. May all beings, including myself, may we all be well and happy. Well and happy. Well and happy. Let us now take a deep breath in, breathing in all the wholesomeness in the world, and breathing out any impurities of mind and body. Deep breath in, letting go out. In, out, and gently awaken into the present moment. Here and now. Sadhu. 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 Okay, let us go for a 5-minute break. We'll come back in 5 minutes. All right. So with today's meditation, something that it would be good for us to know to sort of continue our practice. And to those of you who really gave in to the importance of, this practice as well. When it comes to the practice, now it was rather different from what we did last week, right? There is a mention of a sevenfold and tenfold kind of learning that should be learned and known to the person who is able or who wants to go ahead with this practice, right? The sevenfold is, now as we mentioned in the Abhidhamma class, we cannot take certain objects as Vipassana Aramana because of the what's the word? The lack of stability of certain objects, right? That is what we discussed. Now, keeping that in mind, we now go into the 7 types of learning. The first is verbal recitation. We have to be able to verbally recite the 32. The second is mental recitation. Mental recitation. Now, this is because now for all of you, there might have been places during your meditation where you feel like, okay, is this the right organ? Or what does this mean? Right? Sometimes certain body parts we don't know. For example, like the diaphragm. A lot of people don't know what the diaphragm is and where it is, right? And you would think, okay, what's the diaphragm, right? I mean, I didn't know. I didn't know. Right. Then I had to locate diaphragm with a quick Google search. Right. There can be people, dummies like me, who sometimes don't know the certain part of the body. So verbal and mental recitation, right? You have to have that sense of fluency when it comes to the words and what it represents. Then, with regards to the specific object that comes to mind, linked to that word that you are mentally or verbally reciting at that moment, be it Pubbo or Muttang or whatever it is, that word must represent a clear, distinct image, right? It can't be, it looks like this and it looks like this too. There's a small difference, it can't be like that. You have to have a clear image of what the object is. Clear, right? And no doubts about it. Why? The moment the doubt arises or the moment of wonder passes, the object becomes unstable. And this cannot be taken as a Vipassana object, right? For ekagrata, with the object to transpire, we have to first build the solidness of the meditation object. Do you understand? That solidness is defined with these terms in the doctrine about how to go ahead with the practice. The first is the color of the object. The color of the object. 2 is the shape of the object, right? The color, the shape. 3 is the direction of the object, meaning above the navel or below the navel, right? The direction. Then the exact location of the organ, of the object. And after that, its delimitation. Meaning, right, if one organ is here and another organ is here, we exactly know the object, the location, the direction, the location, and its delimitation, meaning where does it end? Do you understand? Meaning knowing that biology biology education kind of thing, you know exactly where it is and where it ends and by what it ends, the delimitation. Do you understand the clarity which is required here, right? So literally separating a day of your week to go and Google all of this. I mean, the doctors here would know, right? But maybe even the doctors would need to sort of, remind themselves of it. I don't know. Retirement can be long, isn't it? So whoever needs it, really sort of going into the details to properly have a clear, distinct mental image, which is true, right? And undoubted, right? Then so that is the shape. And with regard to the attitude or the way of approach or the mistakes that can happen in that way of approach, to never mix two objects. For example, Kesa and Loma, right? Kesa and Loma, never mix up the objects. So those are the 7 ways of mastering the object. Now, in the tenfold, I'm sorry, the 7, the tenfold skill of learning, which offers more in-depth reasoning of what we need to master. 1, following the order of the objects, right? The order of the objects. 2, not too fast, 3, not too slow. Having a clear gap between the objects, yet not being too far or too quick, too fast, or too slow. Is that understood? Right? 4, warding off distraction. Right? Skills in learning. Warding off distraction. Right? Meaning, even if a distraction appears, how to remain with the object and being able to remain with the object. Right? 5, staying with the concept. Right? Now, this is the reason why we all often do a bit of samatha before going into Vipassana. Right? Because that sense of one-pointedness that comes about with the samatha helps the Vipassana tremendously, and it is a required aspect to be able to cultivate that insight. It's truly a mind that has been stilled, that can truly give birth to these wonderful insights, which you generate, not applied, right? Staying with the concept, right? Staying with the concept, the true nature of the body. Now, for example, this is where the different meditation technique comes into play, right? Meaning, if you're doing metta, do metta. If you're doing asubha, do asubha kind of thing, right? We should not bring in, now, for example, even if we go into a metta jhana, now we are doing metta as a not for jhana, but as a support. But if you're doing according to jhana, I would have to, in guiding, stick strictly to the metta words, not the mudita, not the upekha words. Do you understand? So that to define that object, which will then manifest itself into nimitta, which will lead us into jhana. That clarity and distinction is very important. If it's the breath, it's the breath. You can't be doing metta towards the breath. Do you understand? Even that comes into play, right? Then what I might ask myself, if I am in the audience, is okay, then should we not, then where does metta stand? Because we relate it to metta as an important aspect as well. The metta, when the samadhi increases with the ekagata, the metta becomes acquainted with the mind, where it's a part of the mind now. That is the yonso charita, the mind that is wholesome. That works now in the mind, which then you don't have to bring up again and again and again and again when it comes to warding off distractions or distractions that might appear from within with regards to when you're meditating. Is that clear? Yeah. Successive leaving. You can ask questions after. Successive leaving. This means staying with the most clear body part. At some point, some parts may not be as clear as others. Now, this is a specific way to develop it into absorptions, right? If you are going to continue along the Vipassana, it can be different. If you want to go into the Samatha, right, the absorptions, you can do it in this manner, where you stick with the most clear objects. Why is this? Right? Why? Because when the mind gives priority to samadhi, right, it will go into maturing the samadhi rather than the other aspects, which is present in a compilation or a collection of what is required for vipassana practice or enlightenment. Do you understand? Right? When now your priority becomes samadhi over the understanding of the three characteristics, which is anicca, dukkha, anatma, now the focus has shifted. Do you understand? Right? I hope I'm like making sense. Yeah? Okay. I'm just blabbering on, you see. It's a good morning. All right. Then, how do you do it with Vipassana? When it comes to Vipassana, you are prioritizing prajna. How do you know it's prajna? Because in the Eightfold Noble Path, it is through Samma Ditti and Samma Sankappa that, I said that right, yeah. Samma Ditti and Samma Sankappa that lead one to enlightenment, not the Samma Satya and Samadhi. So then what is Vipassana? It is the understanding over the three characteristics. Do you understand? Yeah. Then it comes practicing absorption. So seventh is practicing the absorptions, right? Eighth is developing jhana, right? 9 are the 6 coolnesses. It's a funny way it has been translated, coolnesses, which is consciousness should be restrained. It is restrained. When the consciousness is restrained, a good Sinhala word is hila. Yeah, that word, right? Hila, when the mind becomes Hila to you, right? Right? Sounds a bit cute when I'm saying it, but okay. When consciousness should be exerted, when the consciousness is exerted, then consciousness should be encouraged when it is to be encouraged, and should be looked at, the consciousness should be looked at with equanimity when it is looked at by equanimity. Now, this is a very important part, right? And the other one is, the fifth one is resolute in the state to be attained, and the sixth is one delighting Nibbana, that is the attainment of Nibbana. Now, this is a very important part, right? Restrained, the six coolnesses, restrained, exerted, encouraged, equanimity, resolute in the state to be attained, and one who delights in Nibbana. 6. The first 4 are things that we would have as tools in the mind to mend or to tend to the different other states of mind which would arise, isn't it? Right? We use this already, isn't it? All of us do. If you're meditating, you will have to use these. These tools, now if I am on a primary meditation subject, right? And now I have to bring my mind to, and then a sort of anger arises. Now, to get rid of this anger that arises, I need to stop anapana and do metta bhavana towards a person I'm trying to hate here, right? Now, that is clearly a shift. It disturbs us. When a hindrance comes up, it takes us away from the meditation subject. And it takes a bit of time to again bring it back to the object that it should be on. Even if it is a good, wholesome practice, now you're tending to that wound in a way. And you're coming back when the wound has been tended to. So then what do we do? Or what is this about? It is about being able to use the tools without being shifted from the object. Do you understand? Right? And that is through being able to have these 4 skills within oneself, to cultivate them in a way that you acquire a mastery over its balance. Do you understand? Right? Should be restrained. I'll read it again. When consciousness should be restrained, it is restrained. When consciousness should be exerted, it is exerted. When consciousness should be encouraged, it is encouraged. When consciousness should be looked at with equanimity, it is looked at with equanimity. One is resolute on the state to be attained. He knows his practice. He knows exactly, he's connected, just as one who has cultivated anapana properly. He knows at what stage you are in your process of in-breathing and out-breathing. You know whether there's more air to be sent out or whether you are at its end, right? You know this. Just so you know the practice, not because you know everything that is there in the Tipitaka, not because of that, because you're so acquainted and linked to your state of mind. Do you understand? Sometimes when you're angry, you're wondering, at first you believe you're angry just because she did something or he did something, whatever. But now when you think about it, you're angry at that situation because you have some, you were triggered in some sort of way. The person that you're really angry with is your neighbor. Your neighbor is the root to all your suffering in this world. Right? And then with far a bit more contemplation, now you go into anicca dukkha. Now this cuts completely from all of that. You have enough wisdom to cut through all of that nonsense and to be able to, you know exactly who you're mad at. Something of that sort. You want know what I mean? I hope you get the point. and then the 10th out of the 10th-fold skill is the ability, developing skill in the 7 enlightenment factors, which is balance. So when I say balance, 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 it is really the 7 enlightenment factors, right? Because remember, these enlightenment factors are chetasikas, which are cultivated, grown, nurtured to become now that which is carried out by the 7 factors of enlightenment, which will help you to attain whatever that you would attain. Enlightenment. The 7 factors are mental factors. Being able to have these mental factors all aligned to one object, which is that nibbana, that vipassana, that itself, that balance is done or brought about by only the 7 factors of enlightenment. Do you understand? Yeah. I think, that offers us a great amount of clarity with regards to the relationship we have with the object and the kind of study that you would have to do for yourself to further facilitate the continuity of this meditation subject. And it's Asubha and Marananusati, 2 parts that we are now slowly coming into. There are certain benefits of this as well, right? Excuse me for going over time. The benefits is realizing that there is no self, facilitating that understanding, eradicating of erroneous views about self, sakkaya ditthi. The second is this meditation can heal physical ailments, right? Can heal physical ailments, illnesses, cure. The third benefit which is mentioned is it can overcome boredom and delight. Overcome fear and dread. Enables deep concentration, enabling a person to have this thicker panya, or to be able to apply that kind of intellect. Aids in the attainment of jhana and aids in the attainment of nibbana. Right? So it is all around good practice. Right? So do the research, so that you become familiar. And this meditation, the way that we approached it was really today. Remember, last time we had more speaking with regards to what the subject is, what the object is, what organ we are at, and all of that. This time it was more like even Buddhanussati, Supatipanno, Bhagavato, and this is slowly the progressing of going within. So now it's a time for you to sort of familiarize yourself with the object so that it can be used for Vipassana. So any questions? Yes, Mala.
Bhante, could you kindly upload this session? Because there's a lot to take in. I would like to go through it again.
Of course, Mala.
Translation.
Yeah. Anyone else? Ashriani.
One thing what I experienced today, my personal experience, where we went through the whole body parts, and then when you said to go into the feel the whole body, I felt the whole thing as one vibration. It's like one big jelly vibration. Went into the vibration for quite a while, and then suddenly I felt like the whole body was expanding beyond my control. And it suddenly, and then it stops and gently start coming back to distracting, like the expanding. It came back and then suddenly went into a state of my head. All what I could notice was sudden reddish pinkishness, and in my mind, that's it. All I could. For a long while, it was in this place where it was suddenly in a very blurry redness for a long while. I don't know what was that happening there.
At the moment when the body was expanding, right?
Yeah.
That moment where it came across that it might be out of control, that is
Yes.
the fear aspect setting in. When the fear aspect sets in, the natural process would then be hindered. Right? Now, in the 10 ways of mastery, that part about using those tools without shifting the subject applies here. Right? Where that sense of fear that arises, realize that fear is not necessary. But I think it's a profoundly sort of beautiful experience that you've gone through, Shriyani, right? But allow that process to continue. Without, of course, the attraction, there's nothing to say about that, without attraction, of course, but allow the mindfulness to flourish. Because remember, this type of fear, why I'm making a deal out of it, is because this type of fear arises very often. Actually, it will arise, right? And sometimes it even arises before we start meditation. For example, you choose to, whilst being able to sit on the ground, you choose to sort of sit on a chair because you want to get rid of as much pain as possible, for example. Right? So that fear appears again and again and again, and it disrupts that openness. Remember, it only fears because it has never seen this part of the mind.
Yes. But this is the first time I experienced this. Yes.
So conquer that fear, Shriyani.
Thank you.
Yes. Anyone else?
Bhante.
Yes, Himali.
Bhante, I felt something more clearer. That means when you say Vayu, the breath for me much clear, observe much clear. And then when you say about the temperature, I felt different temperatures, Bhante. More hot like left side, and feet cold and different temperature.
Yes.
And I want to say thank you for Dhamma, because I felt a little bit clearer when I observe. Thank you.
All right. All right.
Is it?
Well, I think very much of the, with your experience, you have experienced something, right? Which is from the state that you were at, right? You further need to fuel that openness and acceptance of the present moment with regards to, so similar to what I mentioned to Shriyani, further facilitating that openness of mind to welcome the different changes, to allow that flow to continue. Yeah, because being able to be with that flow is what essentially guides you to that state of mind, overcoming that hurdle, overcoming the different negative aspects that could arise, which can be limiting to what can be achieved and attained.
That means, Bhante, when I get the temperature difference, have I to concentrate on that, or what I have to go? It's not clear, Bhante.
The best way would have been to continue to observe without the question. Do you understand?
Because yeah, observe hotness here and coldness here. So
Yes.
what you mean is observe that, to observe.
No, what I essentially mean is to have openness in mind, to cultivate a deeper sense of hope, openness, which is actually what is the delimiting factor that you see. What you have seen is delimitation. I'm sorry, limitation. Do you understand? When you see if part of the body is hot and another part cold, or whatever it is, which can be actually, the feet can be cold, the body, upper body can be hot, whatever, right? Which can be. But when you see sections of the body, what that says about the attitude of mind or the approach to the subject is that the mind is limiting. Do you understand? So then what do we do to cure that? We now look on acceptance and more facilitating that openness of mind to the potential of what could be. Not based on what could be, but the base should always be that openness of mind. Do you understand? Just simple openness of mind, acceptance.
Openness means to see that, to accept the difference, is it?
You could say
Openness.
that. You could say that. Yes, you could say that. Whatever which is, the ability to accept that position, that openness, you're not seeing anything that limits, doing the exact opposite. So that opposite of limitation is openness. Do you understand?
Okay,
Does that make
thank you.
sense?
Yeah, I'll try, and I'll try to get it. Yes, I understood little bit, but
Okay.
when I practice, I can get, yeah.
Okay.
Bhante,
Yeah.
I'll see, yeah.
Basically,
Thank you, Bhante.
for example, when we practice Maitri and we say that Siulu Sattva, right? When we say Siulu Sattva, there is a sense of radical openness there. Do you understand? You might not think of it in that way, but there is a sense of openness there. Siulu Sattva. You're giving something to everyone. Exactly. Do you understand that state of mind?
Yeah.
That needs to be further facilitated when it comes to that Vipassana. Do you understand?
Yes, Bante. Yeah.
Did that make sense? Did I confuse all of you?
Yeah, no, Bante. What you mean is not to, I mean, to all Jivin in this world, to all living being like
Yes,
that.
that is my example. So
Yeah, yeah,
that is
yeah.
the example of that sense of openness, right? It's a skill, right? Donate a little bit of time to cultivating that skill. And then you will find that the limitations will now reduce, right? With anyone, right? If it is limiting, you're doing something, you are something that limits. So then you do the exact opposite of it, to have that attitude of mind, which is able to, which we use when we do Sivulu Satya Nidukvetva with the purest of heart. There's a sense of openness there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, Bante. Thank you. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, so we've gone over time. So I hope today's meditation session was valuable and that you gained something from it. And I will see you tomorrow. All right.
It was very good, Bande. Thank you.
Thank you. Mala, how many stars? All
We
right.
give you 10 out of 10 stars.
Only 5 stars.
Thank you, Bante.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Bante. Sadhu, sadhu.